The fall before the rise, hook and setup. In a small town on the edge of a great desert, hope was hard to find. The town had once been lively and bright, but now dark clouds of sorrow hung over every street. People moved slowly, their eyes fixed on the ground. In this town lived a man named Ethan. He was quiet and kind, and he still held a spark of hope deep within him. Even as the world around him seemed to crumble, Ethan believed that something good was waiting to happen. Ethan's daily routine was simple. Each morning, he walked to the old market square, where empty stalls told the story of better times. The laughter and chatter that once filled the air had been replaced by silence and despair. He often stopped to help his neighbors, offering kind words and a helping hand, even when his own heart felt heavy. Many of his friends had given up, lost in their own sadness. But not Ethan. He saw beauty even in the darkest moments and trusted that change was possible. One cool morning, as Ethan passed by a crumbling building, he noticed a strange glow coming from a narrow alley. Curiosity overcame his sorrow, and he stepped into the alley. There, lying on the ground, was a small silver object. It shone in the early light like a piece of a star fallen to earth. Without knowing why, Ethan felt a deep pull towards the object. He picked it up gently and felt a warm energy pulse through his hand. That simple act of picking up the silver piece marked the beginning of a story that would change everything. Word of Ethan's discovery spread slowly through the town. Some people whispered that the object was a sign of something greater. Others feared it might bring more trouble to an already suffering community. Even so, the object's gentle glow seemed to fill the hearts of a few with a new sense of purpose. It was as if the object had a life of its own, urging people to look for hope in small places. Rumors grew, and soon the townspeople began to wonder if this strange find could be the answer they had longed for. In a modest home near the town center, a wise old woman named Lila heard about the silver object. Lila was known for her calm words and deep understanding of the world. She believed that every event, no matter how small, had a reason behind it. When she learned of Ethan's discovery, she felt that a hidden story was about to unfold. Lila decided to visit Ethan, hoping that the object might hold secrets from the past that could lead to a brighter future. Ethan welcomed Lila into his small, cozy home. With soft eyes and a gentle smile, she examined the object carefully. "This is no ordinary thing," Lila said in a low, steady voice. "It holds a light that many have forgotten. It may be the key to bringing life back to our town." Her words struck a chord in Ethan's heart. For the first time in many years, he felt that his actions might lead to change. Together, Ethan and Lila began to ask questions about the object. They talked with elders, read old books, and listened to the silent tales of the wind. They learned that long ago, this object had been part of a great machine that brought hope and energy to people. That machine had been lost in the chaos of time, leaving the town to suffer in silence. Now, it seemed, the first piece of that lost machine had been found. As the days passed, more people gathered around Ethan and Lila, curious about the mysterious object and its promise. They held meetings in the town square, where ideas began to bloom like small flowers after a long winter. The community felt a stirring of life. Even the quietest souls began to speak up, sharing their dreams and hopes for a better future. The object had given them something new to believe in, a chance to rebuild what had been lost. But as hope grew, so did the challenges. There were those who doubted the wisdom of chasing a dream that might never come true. Rumors of dark forces and hidden dangers began to spread. Some claimed that the object was cursed or that its light could only bring pain. Yet even in the midst of these fears, Ethan and Lila continued their quest. They understood that every journey began with a single, brave step. They believed that only by facing the unknown could the town rise again. In this moment of fragile hope, the town stood at a crossroads. On one side lay the easy path of despair, where nothing would ever change. On the other, a winding road filled with uncertainty, but also the promise of renewal. The decision was not yet clear to all, but the seed of change had been planted. Ethan's small act of kindness, picking up a silver object, had ignited a spark that might one day become a blazing flame of hope. As dusk settled over the town, the silver object continued to shine softly in Ethan's hands. The gentle glow was a reminder that even in the deepest darkness, there is always a light waiting to be found. In that quiet moment, the town's fate hung in the balance, and the promise of a new day was born. The journey to save the town had begun, and with it, the first steps of a larger story. A story of despair, of courage, and of humanity rising once more. The awakening of the people. After the mysterious object was discovered, the small town began to change. People who had once sat quietly in their homes started to gather in the town square. They came with cautious hope and a desire for change. Ethan and Leela stood at the front of the crowd, their faces gentle but full of determination. They spoke in calm, clear voices about the old legends of the lost machine and the power it once held. Now, with the silver object in hand, they believed that the first step to change was to awaken the heart of the town. Every day, more neighbors joined the meetings. There was Sarah, a young teacher who had lost her smile long ago, and Tom, a hard-working farmer who felt the weight of despair in every furrow of his land. Even old Mr. Jenkins, known for his silent ways, now nodded with quiet understanding. They listened as Ethan explained that the object was part of a greater whole, a machine that once spread light and energy across the land. Leela, with her soft wisdom, told stories of a time when people believed in miracles. Together, they made a plan to search for other pieces of the lost machine. The town decided to send small groups out into the nearby fields and forgotten forests. They carried little tools and maps that Leela had gathered from old books. Their hope was that these parts were hidden in places that had been lost to time. As the groups set out on their journeys, the people left behind in the town began to repair small things, fixing broken windows, cleaning old streets, and planting small gardens. Each act was a symbol of their belief that hope could be restored. One morning, as the sun rose over the dusty horizon, a group led by Sarah returned with news. They had found a strange rusted key buried under an ancient tree. It was different from the silver object, but shone in its own way under the morning light. The key was small and delicate, yet it carried an air of importance. Sarah held it in her hands, and her eyes sparkled with wonder. "This may be the key that opens the door to the lost machine," she said softly, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. Tom, who had joined the search, looked at the key and then at the silver object kept safely in the town hall. "We must protect these treasures," he said firmly. His strong words brought comfort to the others. They knew that the journey was dangerous, but it was also a path to a new beginning. With each discovery, their courage grew, and the town's spirit began to rise from the ashes of despair. At the same time, in a quiet corner of the town, a mysterious figure watched these events unfold. This person, known only as the Wanderer, had traveled from faraway lands and had seen both great hope and deep sorrow. The Wanderer knew of the lost machine and understood its power. With a slow, deliberate step, the Wanderer made his way toward the town, curious about the spark that now ignited the hearts of the people. The arrival of the Wanderer was a turning point. When he entered the town square, the chatter fell silent. He had a calm, knowing look in his eyes. Without saying much, he began to help in small ways, fixing a broken bench here, offering a kind word there. His actions reminded everyone that even strangers could bring light into dark times. Ethan and Leela welcomed him warmly and soon learned that he knew more about the lost machine than anyone else in the town. Sitting together one evening by a small fire in the town hall, the Wanderer shared his knowledge. He spoke of a time when the machine was whole and the world was filled with energy and life. The machine was not just a source of power, he explained in a soft tone. It was a symbol of the human spirit. When it broke, so did the hearts of many people. But now, a part of that machine has been found. It is a call to all of us that we can mend what was broken. His words reached deep into the hearts of the listeners, and even the smallest voice in the crowd found strength in them. In the days that followed, the town organized regular gatherings to discuss the next steps. They made plans to explore the old ruins outside the town, where the lost machine was said to have been hidden. Many felt nervous, but the hope of restoring light to their lives outweighed their fears. They organized teams, each with a clear task. Some would search for more parts, others would look for clues in the old texts and legends, and a few brave souls would venture into the ruins. The town began to feel alive again. The streets that were once empty were now filled with conversations and laughter. Children played in the fields, and neighbors worked together to rebuild homes and share food. Each act of kindness was like a brick in the foundation of a new beginning. The journey to find the lost machine was not just about recovering metal and parts. It was about recovering hope, unity, and the belief that humanity could rise from despair. As night fell and the stars came out, Ethan stood on a small hill overlooking the town. In the cool night air, he thought about the journey ahead. There would be challenges and dangers in the old ruins and deep in forgotten lands. But with the silver object, the rusted key, and the newfound spirit of the people, he believed they could face anything. The town was no longer lost in despair. It was waking up, ready to take its first steps toward a brighter future. In that quiet moment, the soft light of the silver object seemed to glow even brighter. The people of the town, united by hope and the promise of change, had begun their journey. Their path was uncertain, but every step forward was a step away from despair. The lost machine, once a symbol of broken dreams, now stood as a beacon for a future built on hope and the unyielding strength of the human spirit. The journey into the unknown. The town was filled with quiet excitement as plans for the journey took shape. With the silver object and the rusted key now in safe hands, Ethan, Leela, and the Wanderer led a group of brave townspeople toward the old ruins, where it was said that more parts of the lost machine might be hidden. The group was small but full of hope. They believed that by finding the missing pieces, they could restore the lost light and energy that once filled their world. Early one misty morning, the group gathered at the town square. Sarah, Tom, and a few others had volunteered to join the journey. They carried simple tools, a few maps made from old writings, and plenty of food and water. Leela reminded everyone to keep their eyes open for clues. "We must trust our hearts and our memories of old stories," she said softly. The Wanderer, with his calm eyes, added, "The path will be hard, but each step we take brings us closer to the hope that once shone in our town." The road to the ruins wound through quiet fields and dark forests. As the group walked, they shared stories of the past. They recalled the legends of a time when the lost machine had powered the town and brought joy to every home. Their voices were low and careful, as if the old legends were fragile treasures. In the quiet moments between words, the soft chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves filled the air. The simple sounds of nature reminded them that life was still present, even in places touched by sorrow. After several hours of walking, the group reached the edge of a dense forest. The trees stood tall, their branches forming a high roof that let through only thin beams of light. The air grew cooler, and the path became less clear. With each step, the group felt a mix of fear and excitement. They knew that in these woods, old secrets lay hidden, and danger might be near. Yet they pushed forward with the belief that they must find the next piece of the lost machine. Deep in the forest, the Wanderer led them to a small clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a stone pillar, half covered in moss and vines. The pillar was carved with symbols that none of the townspeople had seen before. Ethan stepped forward and ran his fingers lightly over the worn carvings. "These symbols tell a story," he said in a soft voice. "They speak of a time when our ancestors used the machine to guide them through darkness." Leela joined him, examining the carvings closely. "There is a map here," she said, pointing to a series of lines and shapes that seemed to form a rough guide. "It might lead us to the next part." The group gathered around the stone pillar. With the Wanderer's help, They made a careful copy of the symbols. The map was simple but clear, a path that wound from the forest clearing to an old, forgotten temple hidden among rocky hills. The temple, as the legend said, held many secrets and perhaps the next piece of the lost machine. With the new map in their hands, the group felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their journey was not just a search for lost metal and energy. It was a quest to reclaim the hope that had been lost in despair. The path led the group away from the dark forest and toward the rocky hills. The climb was steep and tiring. Tom, who had grown strong from years of hard work on his farm, helped others who struggled on the rough path. As they climbed, they talked about what the machine might do for their town. Sarah whispered, "Imagine if we could bring light back into every dark home." Even those who had once doubted now began to smile at the thought of a future filled with light. After a long day of walking and climbing, the group reached a small plateau. In the distance, they saw the faint outline of an ancient temple. The temple was built of stone and looked fragile, yet it carried an air of strength and mystery. As the group approached, the wind began to whisper through the stone corridors. The quiet sounds seemed to tell stories of the past, a past filled with both wonder and pain. Ethan led the way into the temple. Inside, the air was cool and still. Sunlight filtered through cracks in the high ceiling, casting soft beams on the dusty floor. The group moved slowly, careful not to disturb the silence. In one corner of the temple, beneath a broken statue, they found a small compartment. Inside the compartment lay an object that shone with a faint, steady light. It was different from the silver object and the rusted key, but it held the same promise of hope. Leela picked up the new object gently. "This is the next piece," she said with a mix of wonder and relief. The object was smooth and warm, as if it held a hidden energy that could awaken the ancient machine. The group gathered around, each feeling a surge of hope. They understood that their journey was far from over, but with each piece they found, the lost machine was coming closer to being whole again. Before leaving the temple, the Wanderer and Ethan marked the spot where the object was found. They believed that the temple, like the stone pillar in the forest, was an important part of the journey. With the new piece secured and hearts full of determination, the group began the long journey back to the town. Their path was still full of unknown challenges, but every step they took lit a small flame of hope. As the group made their way back, the setting sun painted the sky with soft colors. In the quiet glow of dusk, they'd promised each other that they would continue the quest. The lost machine was more than a relic of the past. It was a symbol of the human spirit rising from despair. And with every piece they uncovered, that spirit grew stronger. Thus, the journey into the unknown had brought not just a new part of the lost machine, but also a deeper bond among the people. Their hearts, once heavy with sorrow, now beat with a shared hope for the future. The quest was a reminder that even in the darkest times, the light of humanity could guide the way. Shadows of doubt and rising resolve. Back in the town, the return of the search party filled the streets with quiet celebration. The new piece, found in the ancient temple, was carefully placed next to the silver object and the rusted key in the town hall. It shone with a gentle, warm glow that brought a small smile to everyone's face. However, even in the midst of hope, shadows of doubt began to appear. Ethan, Leela, and the Wanderer met that evening in the town hall. The room was lit only by the soft light of oil lamps and the mysterious glow from the recovered object. Ethan stood by a simple wooden table and spread out the symbols copied from the stone pillar. The symbols were a reminder that the journey was not yet complete, and that many pieces were still missing from the lost machine. The task ahead was difficult, and a sense of uncertainty crept into the hearts of the people. Leela, wise and gentle, spoke in a soft tone. "We have found 2 pieces so far, but the road ahead is long and filled with challenges. We must be ready for any obstacle that may try to stop us." Her words were meant to comfort, but they also made clear that the task was serious. Some in the crowd exchanged worried glances, unsure if their small town could ever bring together the strength needed to face what lay ahead. The doubts were not only in the minds of the townspeople. Outside the town, in dark and hidden corners, forces that had long been dormant stirred. Rumors had begun to spread of a secret group that did not want the lost machine to be reassembled. These people believed that the machine had once controlled the power that now ruled the world, and that its restoration might upset the balance of things. Though the group's intentions were hidden, their presence was felt as small acts of sabotage. A broken lantern here, a missing tool there, that reminded everyone that their journey would not be easy. As days passed, strange events became more frequent. At night, a soft rustling in the alleys and a cold wind brushing against closed windows sent shivers down the spines of many. Some people whispered that the dark forces were watching, waiting for the right moment to act. This growing fear was met with equal parts courage and determination. The townspeople had already seen the light begin to return, and they did not want to lose that hope. Ethan decided that the next step was to secure the town and build a stronger community. He gathered a group of volunteers, including Tom and Sarah, to reinforce the town's boundaries. They cleaned and repaired the old walls, and even built new lookouts on the highest points. This simple act of protection gave the people a renewed sense of control. They realized that even if danger lurked beyond their borders, they could work together to keep the darkness at bay. In the evenings, the town held meetings in the town hall. Lila took the lead, reading from old books and scrolls that contained legends about the lost machine. She spoke of ancient times when the machine provided energy to heal the land and bring people together. Her calm and steady voice reassured the people that every step they took was a part of a bigger plan. Our ancestors faced many hardships, she said, but they always believed that hope could rise from despair. We must follow their example. Meanwhile, the wanderer kept watch for signs of the hidden group. He roamed the outskirts of the town, quietly observing and listening. His instincts told him that something important was coming, a moment when the people of the town would have to stand up not only for their hope, but for the truth of their past. In one quiet night, as the wind howled over the fields, he saw shadows moving in the distance near the old forest. He moved silently, determined to discover who was behind the disturbances. The following morning, the wanderer returned with grave news. He informed the town council that he had seen figures near the forest, acting in secret and avoiding the eyes of the town. This revelation sparked a mix of anger and determination among the townspeople. The secret group, it seemed, did not want the lost machine to be restored, and they would do anything to stop them. This threat, however, only strengthened the resolve of the town. They realized that their journey was not just about finding pieces of an old machine. It was about standing up to those who wished to keep them in despair. Ethan called a meeting in the town square, where the community gathered under the soft light of the setting sun. "We have come far together," he said in a clear voice. "Our journey has brought us hope and shown us the strength we have when we stand as one. Now we must be even more united. Let us not allow fear to break our bond. Instead, let us work together to protect our home and continue our search for the remaining pieces of the machine." The people nodded in agreement. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but their resolve was growing stronger. Each act of community work, each repair of a broken wall, and each shared word of courage helped to push back the shadows of doubt. With a clear purpose, they set up a plan to patrol the town's borders and keep a close watch on the areas where the secret group might be hiding. That night, as the town slept under a starry sky, the soft glow of the recovered object in the town hall shone like a beacon. It was a promise that hope was not lost, even in the face of growing fear. The people of the town were ready to fight for their future, to rebuild not just the lost machine, but their very belief in a better tomorrow. In the quiet moments before dawn, as the first light of day touched the town, the shadows of doubt began to fade. The people understood that while challenges lay ahead, the light of unity and hope would always guide them. And so, with courage in their hearts, they prepared to continue their journey, a journey not only to restore an ancient machine, but to show that even in the darkest times, humanity could rise together and save the day. The gathering storm. A tense silence fell over the town as whispers of the secret group grew louder. The people sensed that the dark forces, which had tried to stop their progress, were now moving in force. In the early light of dawn, Ethan gathered the town leaders in the town hall. The room was filled with worry and determination. Outside, a cold wind swept through the streets as if warning them of the coming storm. Ethan spoke in a clear voice. "We have done well so far, but our work is not finished. The secret group is gathering strength. We must be ready to protect our town and continue our quest to restore the lost machine." His words met with nods and murmurs of agreement. Leela, standing by his side, added, "The light of hope must shine through the darkness. We must show that our unity and courage are stronger than any fear." That morning, the town was busy with preparations. Tom and a group of volunteers checked the town walls and lookouts, making sure that every entrance was secure. Sarah gathered a group of people to send messages to neighboring towns, hoping to find allies who believed in their cause. The wanderer moved silently among the people, his eyes watching every shadow. His heart was heavy with the knowledge that the dark forces were not simple foes but were driven by a desire to keep the town trapped in despair. As the day went on, signs of trouble began to appear. A few lookouts reported strange movements at the edge of the forest. A small group of figures, cloaked in dark colors, was seen near the old market square. The tension in the town grew thicker with each report. The secret group, it seemed, was no longer content with hiding in the shadows. They were coming closer. Ethan decided that the town must take a stand. "We cannot let fear take control of us," he said during an emergency meeting in the square. "We have a duty to protect our home and our future. We must meet the threat head-on, not with anger, but with the strength of our unity." His words stirred the crowd. In the faces of the townspeople, fear was replaced by a spark of determination. Leela proposed a plan. "We must send a small group to meet the secret group, not to fight with violence, but to understand what they want and show them that our light cannot be dimmed." The idea was met with mixed feelings. Some were afraid that a meeting might lead to danger, but others believed that a peaceful solution was the best way forward. After a brief discussion, it was decided that the Wanderer, along with a few brave souls including Sarah and Tom, would approach the secret group. They would speak with the leaders of this hidden faction and try to find a way to end the conflict. Before setting out, the chosen group gathered in the town square. The sun had begun to set, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. The Wanderer, with his calm and steady gaze, addressed the group. "Remember, our goal is not to wage war, but to bring understanding. We must be brave and gentle. Our words can be our strongest weapons against fear." His voice was quiet yet firm, and each member of the group felt the weight of their task. As night fell, the meeting was arranged in a clearing at the edge of the forest. The clearing was lit by a few scattered lanterns, their soft light barely pushing back the darkness. On the far side, figures emerged from the trees. They were led by a stern-looking person whose eyes showed both anger and sorrow. The leader spoke in a measured tone. "We have watched you rebuild hope in a land we believed was lost. Why do you search for a machine that should remain broken?" The Wanderer stepped forward and replied, "We do not seek to bring back old power for its own sake. We seek to restore hope and unity. Our lost machine is a symbol of our collective strength. It represents our ability to rise from despair and rebuild a future where light can shine again." The leader of the secret group frowned, and for a long moment, the clearing was filled only with the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves. A tense dialogue began between the two groups. Sarah, with careful words, explained how the machine had once brought people together. Tom added that the town had found new strength in their shared work and kindness. The secret leader listened, his face softening ever so slightly as he recalled memories of a past where hope was once a living force. The meeting turned from confrontation to cautious conversation. Outside the clearing in the town, Anxious eyes watched the night sky. The people hoped that this meeting would end the growing tension. Inside the clearing, the discussions continued for hours, filled with memories of past hardships and dreams of a better future. Lila's gentle words, echoed by the Wanderer's steady tone, began to bridge the gap between two opposing sides. In the early hours of the morning, as the first light of dawn touched the trees, the secret leader spoke once more. Perhaps we have let fear rule our hearts for too long. We lost something precious when the machine broke, and in our sorrow, we clung to the idea that it must remain broken. But maybe, just maybe, there is room for hope once again. The words were simple, but they carried great weight. The secret group slowly agreed to a truce. They promised to step back from their plans of sabotage and instead join in careful observation of the town's efforts. The meeting ended with a promise to seek peaceful ways to mend the old wounds of the past. As the groups parted ways, the people from the town returned home with cautious optimism. The rising storm of conflict had begun to clear, replaced by a tentative calm. Yet the work was far from over. The meeting had opened a door to dialogue and understanding, but the town still faced many challenges in restoring the lost machine and mending the broken trust between people. In the soft light of the new day, Ethan and his companions knew that the battle for hope was only beginning. The promise of unity and the spark of human spirit had shown that even in the darkest times, light could prevail. With hearts full of resolve, they prepared for the next steps in their quest, ever mindful that each small act of courage could be the start of a brighter tomorrow.